Caution: resin model kits and aftermarket parts is hazardous to your health. When sanding or machining, wear a dust or fume respirator and clean all surrounding surfaces with a wet rag. Alternatively, wet sand surfaces submerged in a bucket or under running water. Thank you. Hello and welcome to another modelling video. This is Alan from the Gunplanut YouTube with another model review video. Today, very special edition, very special video. For the past few months, I've bought off Gunplanut this 1100 B-Club Leo. B-Club is an older line Bandai used to do to make limited edition resin kits. Leo is a grunt from Mobile Suit Gundam Wing, and it has not really appeared in any other form of plastic excluding the limited model styrene kit, which I also have. B-Club has a reputation of being a BP Bandai of the past. It's made of resin, very expensive, very rare, and supposedly excellent sculpting and at the top of its game. Now, the story of this kit. The Leo and Gundam Wing is very popular, very sought after, very expensive kit. Fetches a high price at auction. Now, this is one of the very few rare kits that has been recast, re-released by Bandai. And it originally came out in the early 90s, just before the anime itself came out, as a special edition or a special events model in a small quantity. Obviously, it's come out a few times more, and this is a more recent 2000s release. What I got when I opened it was a tad disappointing at first. I got these cast pieces with these runners, and some points, mold lines, and other imperfections, after knowing about the reputation of later B-Club kits. At this stage, throughout the photos that you're looking at right now and through the many hours I have spent on this model, I can see why this was a reject from Gunplanut. We've seen some later B-Club kits that are fully articulated, perfectly clean, almost appears that it just snaps together, paint, finish, beautiful. This one is a lot more hard work, and if we look at the very earliest of the Gundam Wing line of 1-to-144, 1-100 kits, when the anime came out, they were terrible. So if this was that very best game, and the sculpt is very cool, love the fact that it's not articulated and it's the statue. The detail, proportions, and overall look of the kit is very pleasing, and I could see why it does still fetch a high price and people still want to buy, collect, or build it. I'm very happy that I attempted it. So let's get more into the modelling side of things. I've dabbled with resin. I've made smaller resin models. I've made a few small tanks and other bits and pieces. Have not attempted anything this big. But with the abandoned kit I did a while ago, I definitely had enough experience to tackle it. First, resins are quite a soft material. I was able to cut all of the excess flash and sprues very easily with just a hobby knife, followed by a lot of wet sanding and filing using the respirator due to powder and whatnot. Drilling the holes everywhere and putting pins on every small bit was extremely tedious, as well as cleaning every bit. You have to prepare your workplace, put a mask on, and clean the dust afterwards, which is also more time consuming, particularly since I have not got the mind frame and haven't done a lot of these kits before. What really killed me was, after all the effort of removing each piece, drilling holes, adding pins, test fitting it about 20 billion times, I contacted Gunplanut again and asked if he actually washed the resin, as you need to wash it carefully with soap and a sponge and whatnot to get the release agents. He said he did not and had to retrospectively clean it. I used the help of water detergent and the ultrasonic cleaner to help vibrate that release agent off. This proved to be highly successful, as well as all the sanding and working that I have done previously. What also really killed me was, after all this work on top of that, there was mold line issues which needed to be puttied, sanded, primed, reputtied, and worked over and over again, to the reason why this project went into months as a work in progress. Now for the next step, the first round of painting, and you'll see why I'm calling it the first round later on in the video. The pieces were all mounted on skewers, as normal for plastic kit. The pieces are significantly heavy, so there was a bit of problem. The majority of the pieces were connected via the pins that were stuck in for the gluing stage. Some of the pieces that did not have pins needed to be on a flat surface or blue tacked on, and caused all sorts of problems. Each piece was primed in Tamiya grey primer, and just multiple layers of shading on the military green, using liquid mask, and then painting all of the grey bits and the machine bits. I tried to use multiple shading techniques and detail techniques for as fine a job as I humanly could do at the time. At the same time, pumping along with my 3D printer, I made a 3 centimeter diameter 4 centimeter high base. Something very small, just a tiny vignette around the feet to give it a bit of atmosphere. And stuck on tiles which were made of styrene. I sanded it up multiple times to get rid of the nasty 3D printing texture, and went along to paint it. This came out quite nice, very pleased. Now, very close to the finishing stage, I was detailing, inking, base was done. Not 100% pleased with the result, and kind of stuffed up the finish. I sprayed everything in enamel gloss and then clear matte, Tamiya clear matte, and it just sort of frosted up in a few areas. Tried to clean it up with thinner, damaged 1 or 2 corners of paint by dropping pieces, and just said nah. Wanted the absolute best for this kit due to its vintage rarity. It deserved maximum workmanship and a chance to be displayed proudly. I soaked it in bleach for a couple of weeks, and went to an absolute fresh start and a fresh attempt at painting heavy resin Gundam pieces. Now, learning from a lot of mistakes that I made the first time round, the second time around was attempted with a fresh head and about a month's rest. I drilled additional holes in surfaces that would be glued together just for the paint skewer. The end of the skewer was stuck in the resin, and the alligator bit was clipped to the side of my boards for maximum stability during painting. This proved to be a lot easier in painting. I used far more colours in shading and painting it, and took my time, and instead of masking and making mistakes there, I freehanded a lot of detail, hand painted some of the more finer pieces with further shading on top. In one of my videos honing your airbrush skills, I sort of look at painting 1 or 2 of these pieces and just shading it as far as I can for light reflection. Gives you a demonstration of my thought process. So I've gotten out of my bit of a rut working with this kit. I've pushed myself in certain aspects of not being familiar on a project this big, of this magnitude, of this rarity. It was a bit stressful working on a kit that, if you mucked it up sufficiently enough, you'd have to go, you can't really go buy another one, and the pressure of it being gifted from someone else. Though I was up for the challenge, it gave it my absolute best, and sufficiently happy with the outcome. The final steps was a bit of detailing, a bit of shading and weathering around the gun, freehand blackening and soot around the barrel of the gun, some rust here and there, black shading around some joints and shadowy areas, lighter shading on the highlights of the areas, dirt on the feet. The 3D printed base was a nice touch. Some people commented as it had small, probably most likely is, but it wasn't really much of an attention seeker. It just sort of elevates the model a little higher, as it is quite small compared to other 1/100 scale pieces. That was also shaded with multiple layers of grey to get sort of an earthy, cementy ground look to it with light shading. Overall, both models was sprayed with enamel gloss clear, multiple coats to give it maximum strength to avoid chipping and scratching, and a few coats of Tamiya matte clear to soften the gloss sheen and give it that machine matte finish look, as I do to most of my models that are not pristine or clean. Has a slight weathered appeal. You know, absolutely fresh out of the factory, seen a bit of service, guard duty, but not perfectly clean. All in all, very, very happy. I came out of this somehow with a finished piece. Going to take this to a couple of shows, display it, whatnot. It's something that most usual Gundam modelers do not see every day, so I want to share it as much as I can, and did put up this video for a little while. This guy has been done for quite a few months, so you might see him in photos from other events and whatnot. I do have a small collection somewhere in the roof of many other B-Club kits, some more modern with polycaps and articulation, some old statues like this one, and every now and then I'll crack one out and give it a go, have some fun, build something out of the box. I would be an absolute terrible liar if I said this was not a challenge. I did not hit brick walls, and that the finish is not absolutely perfect and up to scratch in my opinion. It is not too bad, and I'm still quite proud of it. Thank you very much for following this build. It has been a long time coming, and especially for those who've been following it on Facebook. Also remember that I do have a Facebook profile and post very regularly as soon as I do a little modelling work, the efforts of that day and week, as well as other tidbits and goodies. Stay tuned for further modelling tutorials. Another B-Club kit maybe at the end of this year, next year, who knows. Leave a comment below, let me know if there's anything I can do to help out, anything you're curious about, and keep modelling. Peace out, and catch you guys later.